Hey, family, welcome. I'm Dr. Carla.
And I'm Dr. EP.
We're your co hosts of the Unstoppable Solutions podcast. We're committed to sharing knowledge and strategies to empower you to be unstoppable. If you want more love and connection in your marriage or your relationship, marriage coaches Jabari and Debra Steward are here to help.
Welcome, Mr. Jabari and Mrs. Debra Steward.
Thank you. Thank you. We are glad to be here.
It's so good to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
Yes, Absolutely. We're so excited that you're here.
Yes, we are. And today we are going to celebrate marriage and relationships, especially for Valentine's Day, which really should be every day. Nevertheless, you guys are a beautiful couple. I mean, just a little chat we had. I mean, you've already got me kind of invigorated. It's all about replacing disconnection. I love that, with connection in a marriage.
Yes.
Looking forward to all the unstoppable strategies and tips you have to share and to keep us on track in our relationship. We are thrilled to have you with us today. Again, Debra and Jabari, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, let me formally introduce you. Debra and Jabari Steward are the founders of Keeping It Lit, an international marriage wellness movement dedicated to couples who desire to build strong, connected, and fulfilling marriages. Their work is deeply rooted in their faith. You hear me? Their faith and commitment to living out God's design for marriage. They are Christian marriage coaches who transform marriages into holy matrimony. They are purpose-driven marriage coaches and students of the Gottman Institute's Clinical Foundation in Couples Therapy. You are in for a treat. They got the credentials. Now you're going to get their knowledge. Dr. Carla, you can take it over.
Thank you so much for sharing those credentials. You all have an amazing background and offering. Tell us how or what was the light bulb moment in your marriage that you realized that there was a disconnect?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question. It wasn't a light bulb. It was like a lightning bolt.
Lightning
bolt. Wow. In 2023, I was in a whirlwind. Not just as a father, but as a husband as well. We were trying to get our son Isaiah into college, playing college basketball, and that time was really intense. And for that entire year, I've carried that responsibility on me, like a badge of honor, but also like a burden. And during that time, I was so focused on getting him into college that I neglected my marriage. And because I was kind of like in this tunnel vision of just get her done. You know, days would start early. I would go to work. Then after work, I'd sit in traffic, going to basketball games, practices, tournaments, and sitting in traffic. And we would spend all of our times in gymnasiums. The schedule that we had was 24/7,
right,
nonstop. I mean, imagine that, 24/7 nonstop. And this was going on for about 4 years, but 2023 was the year.
It was crazy because we were so laser focused on getting our son into college that really I started feeling overlooked, as a wife. And, it was like I wasn't being seen, I wasn't being heard, I wasn't being valued that the way, that I needed. So, really during that time and just everything leading up to it, I really started to question if he was the man I was even supposed to be with.
Wow.
It was like that. So, I pretty much was going through this inner struggle and just really feeling disconnected because the love and intentionality that we used to share, it really was starting to fade. So, but at the same time, I knew how crucial it was to get our son into college. So I
Right.
just pushed forward and did everything I could to make that happen. And, you know, the problem was that while I was giving everything to our son's future, I was really just neglecting the foundation of our marriage. And it really wasn't until after well, we struggled through that and
Well,
then
then we had a dramatic event happen that kind of brought all this. We didn't know we were disconnected. We didn't know it
right.
because
Oh,
we
it
were,
was
we were
unconscious.
for me and most men, you know, our job is to we're gonna go kill this meat and we're gonna eat it. Yay, man, we did our job. You know, that's what we expect from our wives. That's the most base nature of us as human beings, as men. You know, we want to be the providers and protectors. We do that. And then we're supposed to, you know, be supersized by our spouse's words of encouragement and affirmation. But what we fail to protect and cherish is our wife's emotion, our wife's her attitudes, everything about my wife. I need to do the same thing I would do outside of this home, but I need to do it more within the home. So I wasn't doing that, and I didn't even know Deborah felt that way.
Right, right. It was finally, you
We
know,
weren't fighting or nothing like
we
that.
weren't fighting, but we
were
just weren't connected.
Yeah.
And finally, you know, our son, he went off to college and then everything kind of settled down, but we were still like traumatized, like, you know,
PTBS.
PTSD.
Yeah, post travel ball stress.
Oh, wow.
So we just, you know, just enjoyed not having to be in the gym
Yeah.
every night and every weekend, all day, Saturday, Sunday. And we were, you know, just enjoying sitting on the couch, pretty much doing nothing,
That's right.
even sleeping in on Sundays. But, you know, it still something was still missing.
Yeah.
Something missing.
Yeah. So finally, you know, we sat down and we came together and we said, hey, we really need to find a church home. Because we didn't even have time to go to church. Like that was all out the question.
Well, something happened before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we want to know what that was.
All right, let's hear the truth.
So you know, we're sitting on the couch looking at each other like, are we? Oh, we're just enjoying this too much, and we just start talking. We start
Right.
talking about finding a church home, but we didn't really do much about it. It was like December, late December, and then we went to see Isaiah in college.
Right.
And then right after we got back.
Right. So right after, literally the day after we got back from visiting Isaiah and our son in school, that's when something happened that, wow, the worst thing that I had experienced up to that point.
Yeah.
My dad passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I'm like a total daddy's girl. So
Yes.
that really just rocked me to my core, to the point where, you know, the grief was almost really unbearable. So, you know, at that time, I just was numb. So I just got with my brother. I kind of just put myself into Debra mode where I just, you know, took charge, do what I had to do, got the programs together, got the funeral arrangements, and then I still had to make sure that my mom was okay. Yeah, all of that. And, you know, I was doing all of that. Jabari, you know, he tried to support me the best way that he could, but I really didn't even know what type of support I needed at that time. Right. And I certainly wasn't thinking about my marriage, the health of my marriage at that time.
Right. And then her dad's passing, it was a wake-up call, because after that, you know, it was a tragic event, but it was a wake-up call, and it was an invitation for us to kind of step out of the busyness of life, reevaluate what was missing. And like Deborah said, we had talked about it, but it was real at that moment. The rubber met the road hard, and the Lord told us that, hey, you guys don't have a spiritual connection. You guys don't have a spiritual connection with me, nor have you nurtured the spiritual connection that I need you to have with one another.
Right.
And that was a turning point. That was a turning point. We were already for 4 years doing this basketball stuff. We were physically and emotionally drained, just empty. But we also realized in that time of grief, in the wake of that, of Dad's passing, that we were spiritually empty, and we had to make a change.
Right.
Now, after that revelation, you have two voids here, and you have three.
Oh, yes.
Deborah is a daddy's girl and she lost her dad, and that's a big hole in her heart, and I can identify with that. And then she wasn't getting the attention because women crave attention.
So do men.
Wait,
So
wait,
do
I'm
men.
going there.
Let's
I'm
get
going there.
let's-
Hold tight, Jabari. I got you. I got your back. And then, like that confirmation from the wife that I am the provider that you need. So both of you have these voids in your lives, and God revealed that there was a disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What did you do? What did you do at that moment? Look at each other, and what did you do?
We prayed. But our prayer was very specific.
Yeah.
Our prayer was very specific. We prayed that God would lead us to the right place.
Yeah.
To the right church.
Yeah.
And
describe that for me, Deborah. Describe that, going to that right church. I want to hear this.
Wait, can I jump in before that?
Yeah.
Because we talk about that disconnect. It's relational between me and Deborah, or it was, and it's also relational between God. We had to fix it between us first before we went to God. I don't want us to gloss over that part, because we did pray, but how can two come together unless they agree? So we first had to have the conversation. Hey, this is where we are, and God was already speaking to both of us. So we actually had to sit down and say, and Deborah had been voicing it for a while, that hey, we need to kind of maybe get back to a church home and find a spiritual home. But the key about it is that we communicated about it in honesty. We communicated about it in love, looking for a solution, not blaming one another, saying, hey, we need to find a spiritual church home. And then that's when we prayed.
Right. So we came together, prayed about it, and we kind of had a few ideas in mind, few churches in mind. We wanted to stay local, not too far. So we visited a few churches. And we went to with his history of going to Saddleback, my history of going to Saddleback for a little while, we went to a closer Saddleback South Bay. And so we walked into Saddleback South Bay, and really, honestly, you could feel the love. Just when you walked in, we got hugs and love, lots of love and smiles. And what really tripped us out, for lack of a better word, is that when the pastor preached, every single message we heard, we went a few times, and it felt like he was talking just to us.
That's right.
Like what the things we're dealing with that week, that day, that month, it was like it was just to us. So we said, this is it. This is where we belong. And then we actually started serving together. And that's really where we really started to reconnect, not just with each other, but with God and with each other when we start serving together.
Yeah, that was a real key. And
so you guys got rid of that disconnect and connected. I love it. Now tell me this. You're now connected spiritually and naturally and all that. How did that drive you to keeping it lit? I love that, keeping it lit title. How did you get there? I mean, because you're already lit. So how did you get to keeping it lit?
Right.
Dr. EP, one of the things that our mission is that you're most equipped to help the person you were 2 years ago. And that was our paradigm.
Say that again, Jabari.
You're most equipped to help the person you were 2 years ago.
I like that.
Bottom line, the scripture about that is to be all things to all men, but also to let your light shine. Our light was our experience going through that darkness in our marriage. And of course, you just asked the question, well, how did you guys come out of it? So the only thing we did, we just had to go back and kind of iterate, well, what did we do? What did we do? And from that, we birthed the Keeping It Lit signature framework. We decided that, hey, what we did is like phenomenal. And we had no idea that the connection that God would bring to us and work through us and in us would be so amazing. And so we want to share this with other couples who may be struggling, because it doesn't matter if you're married for 50 days or 50 years, you can still be going through a level of disconnect. And it's actual disconnect is actual an opportunity to get to know your spouse.
Right.
It's just how you deal with that. Coming through the tunnel of love. Are you going to be selfish? Or are you going to be godly and unselfish about it? So what we did to answer the question.
Okay, so really,
Because I'm a preacher, so you don't want to give me a microphone.
So what happened is that renewed connection, it actually gave us our purpose.
Yeah.
So just like you said, it birthed our purpose. And, we realized that through our journey, God gave us this signature framework for marriage transformation.
That's right.
And it was just amazing because it was how we did it.
Yeah.
How do we do this? So basically it's the solution that changed our marriage, and it helped us get on this journey from what we would call fine to phenomenal.
That's right.
It really helped us reconnect with God, reconnect with each other. And, basically it was born out of our own marital disconnect.
That's right.
So that's how that's how it came about.
Yes.
So the signature framework, it is based on 4 foundational pillars. And the first one is spiritual connection. And what that is, it is fortifying the spiritual bond with God and with each other.
Yes.
And that's based on John 15:5, which says, without me, you can't do anything.
Can't do nothing.
We know with God, without Jesus, we can't do anything.
be a spouse,
So we
nothing.
need that spiritual bond. And the second one is selflessness and service. So what that is learning to serve one another with Christ-like humility.
Yeah.
And that's based on be humble toward one another, always considering others better than yourselves. And that's based on Philippians 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
And say our last two.
The third pillar, I touched on it earlier. The third pillar is communication and love.
Yeah.
And that's the principle of fostering honest communication, fostering communication that fosters love, trust, and understanding. Being able to listen to understand and not listen to respond. And also being able to express yourself, because communication is 2 ways.
Right.
You have to, it's a hearer and there's a receiver, and the message between both has to be clear, has to be crystal clear. So not only do you have to listen to understand, but you have to communicate in love. And those scriptures that we use are based upon Proverbs 15:4 says, kind words bring life. That's easier said than done, especially when you're upset at your spouse, right? Kind words bring life. And then the second part of that is Matthew 18:15. We use this a lot in the body of Christ, and we use it incorrectly. But it says, if another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. We try to use that for our coworker or for the person at the grocery store, but how much more should we use that in our marriage if we're believers?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if in a marriage, if we get offended by our spouse, we try to hold it in, and we don't try to go to them. We don't communicate in love, like how we're really feeling, like, hey, I was really offended. But we don't say that to our spouse. So how can you have reconciliation if you don't talk about your offenses, honestly? So communication and love is our third purpose. And our third foundational pillar, our last pillar is just quite rubber meets the road, forgiveness and grace. Forgiveness and grace is bottom line, based upon Ephesians 4:32. Be kind to each other, tenderhearted, and here it is, forgiving one another, just as God forgave you.
Yes.
Forgiving one another, just as God forgave you. So I don't have a right nor a privilege of any type or any type of criteria to hold a grudge against my wife, because Christ has forgiven me for so much. And what if he treated me in the same fashion where he held a grudge against me as I hold grudge against my spouse? That's not going to work out for me very well. So that's our 4 foundational pillars.
Well, as I listen to the foundational pillars, I really just hear the foundation of love.
That's
Yes,
it.
that's
it.
it.
What I hear. I hear the foundation of what love really is. And it's just a beautiful concept of how you all have put this together. There's a crisis in the United States. The divorce rate is unbelievable. Generally, for the first marriages, it's estimated about 41% rate of people get a divorce, second marriages, about 60%, then even a third marriage, 73%. So can we talk, what do you see as some of the factors there? I know we're talking about disconnect. Do you see that being maybe one of the factors that's causing some of these divorces or having this high rate? And or how can the pillows and keeping it lit help in this area?
Well, disconnect is the one word summary of all marital struggles.
Yes.
So it could be as simple as, you know, he didn't take out the trash and I'm upset about it.
There it is.
And if I never go to him and say, hey,
That's
you
it.
know, can you just I wish you would take the trash out. And he could just be oblivious, but I'm mad. You know, maybe it had been sitting there for a week and I'm upset. But if I never communicate with him in love about it, there's the disconnect.
That's it.
That's the disconnect. Yeah. You know, so it's something as simple as that, or it could be something bigger, you know, we consider bigger, but it's recognizing that the root cause is disconnect. Some people say, oh, well, you know, you have to communicate, it's lack of communication. Well, it's so much more.
Dr. E.T. and I thank you for being here today. Be sure to join us next week for part 2 as marriage coaches Jabari and Debra Steward will be sharing more unstoppable tips and strategies for keeping your marriage or relationship lit with unstoppable solutions.